Welcome to our countdown of the top 10 battles that changed the world. These epic confrontations not only shaped history but also left lasting impacts on our world today. From ancient Greece to Russia, we'll explore the clashes of civilizations and the moments where humanity's fate hung in the balance. Join me now as we delve into these pivotal confrontations, examining their profound and lasting consequences.
Imagine, if you will, the year is 490 BC. The nascent Athenian democracy faces an existential threat from the colossal Persian Empire. The Persian army under King Darius has landed on Greek soil at Marathon. Outnumbered, the Athenians and their Plataean allies stand as the last bastion of freedom. The heavily armed Athenian hoplites charged into the Persian ranks with ferocity. By day's end, the Persian army was in full retreat, their dreams of conquest dashed. The victory sent shockwaves throughout the ancient world, laying the foundation for the golden age of Greece. 10 years after Marathon, the Persian Empire, now under Xerxes, returned to Greece seeking vengeance. The Greek city-states banded together, forming a coalition to resist the invaders. At Thermopylae, a small force of Greek warriors, led by Spartan King Leonidas, prepared to make their stand. For 3 days they held back the Persian hordes, their disciplined formations repelling wave after wave. Betrayed by a local shepherd, the Greeks found themselves outflanked.
In the heart of Mesopotamia, near modern-day Dohuk, Iraq, lay the plains of Gaugamela. In 331 BC, the fate of the Persian Empire would be decided. On one side stood Darius III, commanding a vast multi-ethnic army. On the other, Alexander the Great, a young Macedonian king. Alexander's tactics were audacious, his leadership inspirational. At Gaugamela, he faced his greatest challenge yet. Leading his companion cavalry, Alexander smashed through the Persian lines, aiming directly for Darius.
The Second Punic War, a clash of titans between Rome and Carthage, had raged for over a decade. This monumental conflict saw countless battles, strategies, and shifts in power, leaving both empires exhausted and yearning for a decisive end. Hannibal Barca had brought Rome to the brink of defeat with his audacious crossing of the Alps. His journey, fraught with peril and hardship, showcased his unparalleled leadership and determination, forever etching his name in the annals of military history. But Rome, ever resilient, prepared for a final confrontation. The Roman legions, known for their discipline and rigorous training, were ready to face their formidable foe once more, determined to protect their homeland and secure their future. In 202 BC, on the plains of Zama, the two powers clashed. This battle would determine the fate of the ancient world, with the hopes and fears of both nations hanging in the balance. Leading the Roman legions was Scipio Africanus, a general whose strategic brilliance rivaled Hannibal's. Scipio's innovative tactics and unwavering resolve made him a formidable opponent, capable of turning the tide of battle in Rome's favor. The legions of Rome faced off against Hannibal's veteran troops. The battlefield was a cacophony of clashing swords, roaring elephants, and the cries of determined warriors, each side fighting with everything they had. Scipio's tactical genius and the discipline of the Roman legions ultimately proved too much for Hannibal. The victory at Zama marked the end of Carthage's dominance and the rise of Rome as the preeminent power in the ancient world, forever changing the course of history.
A century after the death of the Prophet Muhammad, the world was witnessing a dramatic transformation. The Islamic Caliphate had swept across North Africa, bringing with it a new era of cultural and political change, and had even ventured onto the Iberian Peninsula. By 732 AD, their ambitions led them to cross the formidable Pyrenees Mountains, pushing deep into the heart of what is now modern-day France, a land rich with history and conflict. Standing resolutely in their path was Charles Martel, a figure destined to change the course of history. As the de facto ruler of the Frankish kingdom, Martel was a man of great vision and unyielding determination. He rallied his Frankish warriors, instilling in them a sense of purpose and courage, and prepared to make his stand against the advancing forces. The two armies met near the city of Tours, a location that would soon be etched into the annals of history. This confrontation was not just a battle, but a pivotal moment in European history, one that would shape the future of the continent. The Frankish infantry, disciplined and determined, formed into a massive shield wall, a formidable barrier against the oncoming tide. They met the Islamic cavalry charges with unwavering resolve, their shields and spears creating an impenetrable defense. The battle raged for hours, a brutal melee of sword and axe where every moment was a fight for survival. The clash of steel and the cries of warriors filled the air, as both sides fought with relentless ferocity. Charles Martel, a master tactician, had anticipated the Islamic tactics and prepared his forces accordingly. His strategic foresight and the bravery of his men would ultimately decide the outcome of this historic encounter. For over 1,000 years, Constantinople stood as a beacon of civilization and an impregnable fortress. Its strategic location made it a vital hub for trade, culture, and military power, bridging Europe and Asia. By the 15th century, the Byzantine Empire had been reduced to a shadow of its former self. The once mighty empire was now a fraction of its original size, weakened by internal strife and external pressures. In 1453, Sultan Mehmed II, a young and ambitious ruler, laid siege to the city. His goal was to capture Constantinople and make it the jewel of his burgeoning Ottoman Empire. The odds were stacked against the defenders. Despite their bravery, they faced an overwhelming force. Constantinople, though heavily fortified with its legendary walls, was outnumbered and outgunned. The city's defenders were a mix of Byzantine soldiers and a few foreign allies. The Ottomans possessed massive cannons, capable of reducing the city's walls to rubble. These cannons, a marvel of engineering, were instrumental in the siege. The siege lasted for 53 days, a brutal struggle for survival. Day and night, the city was under relentless attack, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The defenders, led by Emperor Constantine V, fought with valor and determination. Constantine VI, knowing the stakes, inspired his men to hold the line against the invaders. On May 29, 1453, the Ottomans finally breached the city's defenses, pouring through the shattered walls. The fall of Constantinople marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new chapter in history.
The American Revolutionary War had been raging for 2 years. The colonists, outmatched and outgunned, were fighting for their independence. In the fall of 1777, British General John Burgoyne aimed to cut off New England from the rest of the colonies. The Americans, under General Horatio Gates, gathered near Saratoga, New York. The Battle of Saratoga, fought in 2 engagements, was a decisive victory for the Americans. The British, trapped and outnumbered, were forced to surrender their entire army.
Napoleon Bonaparte, the Corsican artillery officer who became Emperor of France, was a military genius, but by 1815 his star was fading. Defeated and exiled, he returned to France for one last gamble. At Waterloo, Napoleon's army faced a combined British and Prussian force. The Battle of Waterloo, fought on June 18, 1815, was a brutal, close-fought affair. The arrival of the Prussian army turned the tide of the battle. The French army, exhausted and outnumbered, finally broke, their dreams of empire shattered.
World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, had been raging for 3 years. In the summer of 1942, the German war machine turned its attention to the Soviet city of Stalingrad. The Battle of Stalingrad would become a turning point in the war. The battle raged for months, a brutal street-by-street struggle. The German army found themselves bogged down by the tenacious Soviet defenders. The Soviet soldiers fought with a ferocity that shocked the Germans. The city of Stalingrad was reduced to rubble, a testament to the horrors of war.
Thanks for joining us on this journey through history. From Marathon to Stalingrad,